Hi everyone, my name is Lucy Sanford. I live in Crystal Beach, Ontario, and I work with energy, frequency, and vibration. And I want to talk today about our bodies as energy information systems and how that all works, especially in relationship to other energies in the environment. And I thought it appropriate at this time because right now, as I'm taping this, we are all kind of navigating COVID-19. So I think it's really important to remind ourselves of the power that we have as energy beings to rise above our environment by raising our frequency. Um, we are energy information systems. We are made of atoms, and that makes us more energy than matter. As a matter of fact, it makes us approximately 99.99999% energy and only 0.00001% matter. Now, I learned that from an amazing man, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who travels the globe and teaches workshops based on neuroscience and quantum physics to help people raise their frequency and do things like step out of illness. And so, yes, oh my gosh, we are powerful human beings. Now, I work with energy in three different ways. I am a certified electromagnetic radiation specialist with the Building-Biology Institute. Basically, that means I go into homes and I bring meters and I detect, measure, and I lower the amount of man-made electromagnetic radiation that I find in almost every environment. It comes from things like our technology devices and stuff like that. And we call these things electromagnetic fields, or EMFs, and they're not in coherence with our own personal energy. And so I do ways to lower that. I consult with people as well on a one-to-one basis, and I help them to raise their frequency and step out of illness. And I am a geomancer, and that means that I work with the energy of the land beneath our homes. I dowse, I map, and I harmonize the earth grid lines and the underground water veins, and I harmonize them with a type of earth acupuncture. Video is part one of a series that I'm going to do, and it focuses on the relationship of our bodies as energy information systems with man-made electromagnetic energy. And one of the things that science has shown is that these electromagnetic fields, or EMFs, can affect and suppress the production of melatonin in our brain. Now, melatonin is a hormone that not only helps us sleep, but it's a tumor suppressor. So we don't want to be suppressing that. So I'm going to give you some tips today on what we can do about this. And I'm intentionally staying away from the politics and the hype. I'm not here to prove to yourself how bad these things are. As a matter of fact, I want to stay away from that energy altogether. And I want to tell you enough information that will, inform you to make you mindful of it, and then we will move on to what we can do about it. Okay? Great. So as Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. We are electromagnetic beings, and we live on a weave of natural electromagnetic earth lines and underground water veins, and we are in a sea of man-made electromagnetic radiation. And if you could see what wireless radiation looks like, that would be things from like our cell phones and cell towers and smart appliances, smart meters, etc., all our wireless devices and Wi-Fi. It would pretty much look like the image that you see on this screen, courtesy of Lewis Evans. And if you could hear what this radiation would sound like, it might sound like this. These are the sounds that our meters pick up when we're measuring wireless radiation. And this slide is courtesy of Dr. Magda Havas. And the first sound is the sound of the mother's portion of a baby monitor. This is Bluetooth. This next one is the baby's portion of the baby monitor, keeping in mind that these devices are often left right by the head of the baby in the crib. Your cell phone. This would be a cordless decked phone. One thing to note is that that radiation exists whether the phone's in use or not, even when it's just sitting on the cradle. And this would be your Wi-Fi. I'm trying to get to the next slide here. There we go. So here's the thing. Everything our body does is possible because of our electrical system, okay? Our brain runs our body and it emits electrical waves that signal the body and it tells it what to do. But when we add these electromagnetic fields to the mix, these signals get disrupted. And one way to think of it is just with the amount of noise that's out there, okay? So imagine that you walk into a bar and there's like all these televisions playing at one time. They're all at like great noise levels, and they're all playing a different sports event. And then you have let's say you have 100 radio stations all playing at the same time too. Why not, right? Okay, let's add a live rock band to the stage. And let's add people trying to talk to you at the same time. So you've got somebody yelling into one ear over the noise of the environment, and then you've got another person whispering in your other ear. And all these sounds are vying for your attention. Well, the signals on the cells that tell the body what to do, they get confused, and they start to send the wrong chemical messages to your brain. To your cells, to the wrong signals. And I'm going to talk about what these signals are, and then just to give you enough information to understand what could be happening in the body and why, so that you are mindful of it, and then I'm going to tell you what you can do about it, okay? It's not meant to overwhelm, it's meant to give you information and to help you, okay? So Martin Pall, who is a professor emeritus at Washington State University, has done major research on the biological effects to humans of electromagnetic fields. And his extensive research shows that electromagnetic fields work by activating something called voltage-gated calcium channels that are located in the plasma membrane surrounding our cells. Now, the job of these channels is to regulate the flow of calcium into the cell. But when they are affected by electromagnetic fields, they get activated and they open up, and they start to allow excess calcium to flow into the cell. Now, we're talking about copious amounts of calcium, way too much. And it is these copious amounts of calcium that Paul says can cause devastating downstream effects, and can cause, basically can be responsible for all of the biological effects of electromagnetic radiation. Now, while much more complicated than what I have here, Paul's research suggests that one of these downstream effects is the production of the chemical known as peroxynitrite. Now, peroxynitrite is a powerful oxidant, and it can cause a wide range of tissue damaging effects from this oxidative stress. And one, might think of it like rust in a body. There's another researcher, Dr. Andrew Goldsworthy. He is a retired lecturer from the Imperial College of London, and he has spent many, many years also researching the calcium metabolism in living cells and the effects that electromagnetic radiation has on our cells. And you can read his article called The Biological Effects of Weak Electromagnetic Fields that was done in March 2012. And his research shows That damage to the thyroid gland from living within 100 meters of a cell phone base station caused hypothyroidism, and that can lead to obesity and chronic fatigue. It can also affect the adrenal glands, and it can stimulate adrenaline and cortisol. And the excess adrenaline and cortisol causes headaches, cardiac arrhythmia, high blood pressure, tremors, and an inability to sleep. That's the excess adrenaline, actually. Now, the calcium leakage from the electromagnetic fields that Paul also talks about, um, Goldsworthy says, opens up these tight junction barriers in our body, which are meant to protect us from allergens and toxins. And so if it opens in the brain neurons, it stimulates hyperactivity, which can result in ADHD, ADD, and this autism spectrum. If it opens the blood-brain barrier, it can cause death of neurons, and that can result in early dementia, Alzheimer's, memory loss. The opening of the respiratory epithelia barrier can result in an increase in the risk of asthma in children. The opening of the blood-liver barrier can be partially responsible for the current outbreak of liver disease. And the opening of the gut barrier can also promote allergies and is linked to autoimmune diseases. Now, not everybody gets this, but perhaps if you have some of these things, then it is suggested that EMFs may be the result of that. And I'm going to give you, again, ways to reduce those in your home at night, and they're really easy. So here's an interesting thing. Also, I learned this from Dr. Joe Dispenza. All disease is a lowering of frequency. And therefore, we can step out of disease by raising our frequency. And I actually did this several times. It's one of the ways I got over electromagnetic hypersensitivity. It was the way I could get back into society. That's why I went to go to his workshops. And even though I had sort of lowered the amount in my home, I still had to retrain my brain. And that's going to be another workshop that I give on that. At any rate, and I also went from stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma to remission in under 3 months. I actually felt this energy leave in the middle of a meditation. I was doing one of Dr. Joe's meditations, and I felt an energy leave my body. And at the time, I only had 1 chemo. And I actually went and paid for a CT scan because I wanted to prove to my oncologist that, the cancer was gone. And trust me, I don't want to do CT scans. I was electrosensitive. They're like 200 times more powerful than an X-ray, but I did it, and it showed that I was 50% better. 6 weeks later, I was in total remission. So my oncologist was stunned, and my naturopath called it a miracle. So I know that we can do this because we are so amazing. So I want to talk about frequency, and I want to understand what a frequency is so we can understand what's going on, what exactly goes on in the body and how to change that, okay? So a frequency is the number of times that a wave vibrates per second from one crest of the wave to the other, and it is measured in hertz. So 1 hertz would equal 1 vibration or 1 wave passing by every second. A kilohertz is 1,000, a megahertz is 1,000,000, and a gigahertz is 1,000,000,000 vibrations per second. So for an example, our electrical system in North America is 60 hertz. So what does that mean? Well, if you could see the electrical waves passing by in the wiring in your wall, well, then you would see 60 waves pass by every second, okay? Are we getting this? Are we on the same wavelength? Good. What is a wavelength then? Well, a wavelength is the length of the wave from one crest of the wave to the other. The shorter the wavelength, the higher the frequency. As a matter of fact, it is the differences in the wavelengths that we can use as a way to tell the different kinds of electromagnetic energy apart. So that top wave that you see here might be the frequency of the earth. It's nice and relaxed and undulating. And the middle wave might be the frequencies of our electrical system and the wiring in our walls and the appliances, etc. Not smart appliances, regular appliances. And the bottom wave might be the frequencies of our wireless devices. So that would be our Wi-Fi and cell phones and radio frequencies, etc. And there are higher frequencies, and those are coming, like 5G. That's not even on this chart. But I want to talk about a couple of cool little things about frequencies too. So in 1992, the late Bruce Tainio of Tainio Technology built the first frequency monitoring system, and he did that really for agricultural reasons, but it showed a lot of interesting things about human frequency. So it showed that a healthy body, it has a frequency between 62 and 68 megahertz. So again, that means that a healthy body would vibrate between 62 and 68 million times a second. Colds and flu starts at 57 to 60 megahertz. Disease starts at 58 megahertz. So you can start to see how disease is a lowering of frequency. And cancer starts at 42 megahertz. So now let's look at the frequencies of our electromagnetic technological devices. So here we have an electromagnetic spectrum chart, and it's read from sort of left to right and top to bottom. So we're going to start on the left-hand side. You're going to see the picture of the Earth. So there you have the frequency of the Earth, and right up top you will see that that is a category called non-ionizing radiation. So what does that mean? Okay, so non-ionizing radiation means that it does not have a thermal or a heating effect, or it doesn't actually have enough energy to break the chemical bonds of the cell and cause DNA damage. However, current research is showing that it is enough to excite the cell. And so we look at the picture of the Earth, and we come down below that and we see that it says ELF. Well, that stands for extremely low frequency. And then below that we have the wave, which is nice and relaxed and undulating. And then we have the frequency of that. And then we're going to read it from left to right all the way over to the ionizing radiation. And that's ionizing radiation starts even with some sunlight. When we get too much, we can get burnt and cause damage to our skin. That would be ionizing. Now, ionizing radiation means that it has a thermal or a heating effect. So it actually has enough energy to break the chemical bonds of the cell and to cause DNA damage. And it goes up through your x-rays and CT scans and the things that we know we need to use in moderation, all the way up to your radioactive sources and the things that we know to stay away from. Now, if you look at the wavelength of that in the below, you can see how high the frequency is. Remember, again, the shorter the wavelength, the higher the frequency, right? So let me just draw your attention back to where our technological devices are. In particular, let's look at the radio frequency range. And you see the picture of the radio, and then you have the cell tower, then you have the your cell phone. And so let's look at those frequencies, and we come below and we see that those range basically between 500 megahertz and 6 gigahertz. So what does that mean for us again? It means that while we are living, around these things, and we are living with these objects, and we have some of them that, some of us, our teenagers more likely, are the ones that sleep with these things under their pillows, or sometimes we put these sensors under the baby's mattress, that infant's mattress that connect to our cell phones. So we are constantly exposed to multiple objects vibrating between 500 million and 6 billion times per second. Now that's a great increase over what a healthy body vibrates at, right? Between 62 and 68 million times per second. We are not in coherence with these objects. So this is something to be mindful about. And another thing to note, that a child's brain absorbs 10 times more microwave radiation than an adult brain does. And so here, you can see the pictures of that, the 5-year-old up through the adult. And then on the right, these are some of these, the little sensor you can put under an infant's mattress and attach to your cell phone so that you can know, what's happening to the infant at night. Well, just be really mindful that these things are like up to 6 gigahertz. That's 6 million vibrations per second. And the reason that a child's brain, especially an infant, absorbs more radiation is because it's much, much thinner. It's just beginning to grow. So be mindful of that too, and perhaps use a different way. So here's just a little bit more symptoms that, some people may affect. Now, I tell you this not to overwhelm you, but to inform you because, maybe you're feeling some of these things and you've been to the doctor, they say, oh, there's nothing wrong with you, and they always do. Well, these things can be caused by electromagnetic fields. And again, we're going to learn in just a minute what you can do at night to change that and to feel better, okay? So some of these things are your headaches, dizziness, you may have memory loss, irritability, insomnia, depression, leg and foot pain, floaters in your eyes, cataracts, numbness and tingling in your extremities, pressure in your chest, skin rashes, itching, burning, anxiety, enlarged thyroid, digestive problems, dehydration, hair loss, immune abnormalities, ringing in the ears, or tinnitus, that's a biggie, electrical sensitivities, asthma, and on the other end of the spectrum, you have your ADDs, ADHD, chronic illness, and cancers. So before I get to some of the simple things you can do, I want to give you a few more cool information about frequency, okay? So let's look at the frequency of the Earth. So on this slide, you can look at the bottom of the slide and you see the surface, where the surface of the Earth is. And then you come up to the top of the slide and you see the red line called the ionosphere. Well, that is ionized by solar radiation from the sun, and it also acts like a filter for us to filter those that radiation from us. Now, if you look at the cavity between the ionosphere and the Earth's surface, you will see these global magnetic resonances in there that are formed between that cavity, and they are caused by and excited by lightning discharges in that cavity, and they create a frequency, a fundamental frequency of about 7.83 hertz. They have harmonics that go up to about 32 hertz there, and that is the frequency of the Earth, or the Schumann resonance. Now let's go to the frequencies of our brainwave states, and let's go right to the little green guy there, who's relaxed, calm, and in meditation. And that is known as our alpha brainwave state. And we usually reach that, just as we're waking up in the morning from sleep, or just before we go to bed at night. We're all relaxed and we're getting ready for bed, and that really is where we want to be. That is our natural state of relaxation. And if you look below that, you see the wave still nice and relaxed, and then you get below that and you see that the frequency of that is between 7.83 and 14 hertz, and that is exactly the same as the frequency of the Earth. We are meant to be in resonance with the Earth. It is healing to us. It's one of the reasons why we feel so absolutely fantastic when we're surrounded by nature, or we're walking barefoot on the grass. And the purpose of this video is to help you get back to those states, okay? And as you look at how the frequency goes up, and you look at the right end of the spectrum, you can still see as we get into higher frequencies, we can get into that extreme anxiety and panic and the loss of self, of we're into fight or flight, we're robotic, and that is really basically where those frequencies are of our technological devices, some of them anyways. So one more thing, this is kind of fun. Do you remember what I said about wavelength? The shorter the wavelength, the higher the frequency. Well, the opposite is true as well. The lower the frequency, the longer the wavelength. So again, the frequency of our brain state of relaxation is 7.83 hertz, right? Which is exactly the same frequency of the Earth. We've just learned that. Well, The length of that wave is about 24,902 miles. And that equals the circumference of the Earth. Don't you think that's rather divine? I mean, nothing is by accident. I don't think. Anyways, I like to think of it this way, that when we are in a state of relaxation, our brain emits a wave or waves that only need 8 flaps of its wings to fly around the entire Earth in 1 second. Oh my gosh. How powerful are we that we can actually do that? Doesn't that sound like soaring, like flying? Oh, well, that's the goal that I have as an electromagnetic radiation specialist, to get you back to those, calm states of being. So one could say that being surrounded by low frequency waves raises our frequencies. So here are some other ways to do that. Let's turn your bedroom into an energetic sanctuary at night, okay? So no, you're not going to be able to do everything. You're not going to be able to get all of these things, but doing these tips is going to make it substantially better. There's other ways too, and I'm going to talk about those in other videos, that we can work with our own energy to rise above what we can't change physically, okay? But for tonight, try this. Now, it might take about 8 days to feel a difference. Shut down your computers and turn off your Wi-Fi. Put your cell phones on airplane mode, or better still, shut them off entirely. However, a lot of people want to use their cell phones as an alarm clock, or they want to listen to music at night. Well, you know what? Hey, you can still do that on airplane mode, and I'm going to show you how. You go into your settings and you turn off first your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, your data, and your location services network if you have that on your phone. Then switch to airplane mode. Then you can still use your alarm clock. It won't radiate. It won't suppress the production of melatonin in your brain. And you can also listen to downloaded music. You can't listen to music right off the internet, but you can download it and listen to it, okay? So get a corded landline if you're using a landline. If you're not, you might consider getting one. You don't get a phone with dual use. So just so you remember what a corded landline looks like, it will have a cord from the handset to the phone, and then another cord from the phone to a jack in the wall. Okay, now there are some phones that look corded but are not. They have what's called dual wireless and wired use. We don't want to have that little Wi-Fi signal anywhere on the phone at all. The phone should have no baby phones, because that means it's talking wirelessly to them, okay? It has to go into a jack on the wall. Okay. You can also move your foot, your bed 1 foot away from the wall, or you can shut off the breaker to your room and use a flashlight or camp light. Electric and magnetic fields can couple onto the bed from the wiring in the wall and from the wiring in your lamps and appliances. So by moving, and it's a distance thing, we can actually move away from these things, and if it's an electric and magnetic field, and lower them substantially, okay? Okay, remove extension cords and plugs from around your head. Here's the thing. Even if you have a lamp beside you and you turn it off, the electric field still exists as a potential in the wall, so unplugging it is best. If you can turn off the breaker to your room, that is also really good, but you can't do that if it's on the same circuit as an alarm system, or if it's on the same circuit as your fridge, okay? What else? Oh, get rid of compact fluorescent light bulbs. My gosh, those are horrible. They create something called dirty electricity, which can affect the nervous system, and they have mercury in them. And if you can still find the old, I can't remember the name of it, the old lighting, the old light bulbs on eBay. Oh my gosh, what are their names? Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. You can still find those. Those are best. And get a battery operated alarm clock too. Okay, so those are the tips that I have for you. Try it at night. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for part 2. I'm going to do a little video on earth energy and its relationship to our body's energy information system. So blessings on your day. Thanks again for listening. Bye for now.